Hi again, everyone. I'm Bill Sheridan with the Maryland Association of CPAs. And if you've been following along from home, you know that we spend a lot of time here talking about social media and mobile strategies. We know, for instance, that mobile is hot. We learned that from Tommy Ahonen. Tommy says that mobile devices have become these completely immersive gadgets that we simply cannot live without anymore. We know that social learning is hot. We learned that from Tony Bingham and Marcia Connor. And that's that whole notion that most of what we learn today comes not from the classroom, but from other people in the forms of questions and answers and advice delivered to us just in the course of our day-to-day interactions. Now, what happens when you combine those two things? Well, that's where Clark Quinn comes in. Clark is an acclaimed author and a thought leader in this space, and he says the real power of mobile comes from extending the learning experience and supporting people in the moment. In other words, giving them access to the right information wherever and whenever they need it. That's the power of mobile in Clark's view, and it's what he calls M-learning. I caught up with Clark at the 2011 NASBA CPE conference in San Diego, and I asked him to expand on those thoughts a little bit. Here's what he had to say. Clark, tell me what you mean by M-learning.
M-learning, to me, is really M-performance support and performance-augmented learning. It's about supporting people, but with mobile devices. M-learning has become the accepted term, but it's not really the best term because people immediately start thinking about courses on a phone, which is, there have been success stories, but that's not the real potential of mobile. It's extending the learning experience, augmenting it that way, and it's about supporting people in the moment. It's those quick accesses that give you just the right amount of support so you can be successful.
Is there any kind of tie-in there between that notion of M-learning and the notion of informal learning? Where's the intersection between those two things?
It very much is on the informal learning side. You know, it's extending the formal learning experience, but then it's providing, to me, informal learning is really two components. Performance support, so the resources you need, the individual information access you get to help you, and then social learning, where you're connecting with other people who can help you, mentor you, collaborate with you to solve problems. And mobile provides both of those. It's a tool to access information and people wherever, whenever, and that's what, so it's much more on the informal learning side.
And this may be fairly self-explanatory, but explain what's happening today that makes this concept particularly important.
The mobile devices are reaching saturation in the developed world. There's more subscribers than there are people. I mean, more subscriptions than there are subscribers. And it's really become transformative. People are talking about how etiquette's changing. You know, you can tell it's an important conversation if somebody actually shuts off their phone when they're sitting at the table with you. And it's changing business. When you can snap the, there's no barcode on this, but if you can snap a picture of a barcode on a product and then immediately see who else near you has it and what they're charging for it, it's going to change the dynamics. It's changing the information of relationships. And when you can access information at any time, you know, it starts with the person selling wheat in India or selling rice, and they used to go to their buyer and have to accept whatever he told them was the going right. But now if they can access the prices other people are charging in different markets, they can decide where and for how much to sell their meat. So this information leveling, when it becomes ubiquitous and wherever you are, changes dynamics in fundamental ways. And having that ability to augment your ability to think, you know, humans, we've augmented our ability to perform in the world with, you know, levers and spirals and screws. Now we're augmenting our ability to think wherever, whenever, and that's a real opportunity and can be a total game changer.
So give me some examples of M-learning in action. What does it look like?
Well, there is the success story of taking a course that people weren't completing because when they were in their offices at their desktops, they were pulled away to meetings or getting phone calls, and then they stripped out a whole bunch of it, made it, you know, just boiled it down to the basics and put it on a BlackBerry, and the executives were getting to it on the plane when they couldn't make calls, when they couldn't, you know, read email. They were finally getting compliance. But to me, the real wins with mobile learning are when you're providing support. You think about, well, GPS devices are a mobile form of performance support. The London Museum has a mobile app that as you wander around London, it knows where you are, and it will show you on a map. When you get to a place, you can access a picture of what that position looked like 50 years ago, 100 years ago. And so suddenly you're learning about the transition between how things looked you know, in the course of 100 years, and we can start augmenting the world. I keep thinking of generic mobile apps instead of specifically mobile learning ones, but when you're providing compensation calculators to people or they can calculate a deal right then. I don't have to go back to the office and figure out what it's going to cost you and send it to you later. I can tell you the price right now, and you can sign right now, and we can close the deal. We're cutting out middlemen, cutting out time.
How should learning providers start to move down this path? What are some logical first steps to start really thinking about this seriously?
I like the success story of T-Mobile, where they built that compensation calculator for their sales folks. So they had a course, and they provided a tool that extended the course, and that gave them leverage. And that sort of thinking that says, what can I develop that's going to take the learning I've developed and focused on and know, and make that stick better, make it augment it so people are more capable of performing. It's extending the learning experience and extending the ability to perform, and thinking that way is where you're going to get traction. You're going to provide value for your customer that's going to give them satisfaction and happiness, and build your credibility to begin to do more. So the first thing is to get that, it's like standard or change 101. Get that small win that has a big impact that gives you credibility that you can then leverage.
Mm-hmm. And what about the learners themselves? What's their role in all of this? What do they need to know?
They need to know how to use their mobile devices, and increasing, we're seeing particularly among the audiences that matter, and I don't mean that in a negative sense, it's just the ones that contribute most to business success are the knowledge workers, and they have the smarter devices, and they need to know how to use them, they need to know how to access it, and they need to be comfortable. They need to be, part of it's the culture change, so it's not the learner, it's the learner's organization, but it's also they need to learn how to learn on their own. They need to become more effective self-learners and use these devices to make them smarter.
And we all know that all this stuff is changing so rapidly right now. Where is all this going? Well, if you look into the near future, 5 years down the road, where do you see this stuff evolving?
I almost think we're there in one sense. This whole convergence of capability in the device, the modern smartphone that has all these different sensors that know where it is and which way it's pointing, and that capability is already there, and some of it is. But I think the next step is this convergence of the sort of mass customization, the Netflix or Amazon recommendations, where they're pulling from data and building custom content on the fly. I think knowing who you are and what you need to know and where you are, and combining that to do smart push, is the opportunity that's on the table to start building relationships. And the push will be customized by what you want as an learner experience, but we can start creating extended learning experiences, developing you as a person in a long-term relationship that develops slowly, which is how you really learn. We have the ability to start doing that programmatically, and I think that's the opportunity that we will see. I'm an optimist, so I expect we'll see it in the next 5 years. We'll certainly see a lot more of the experimentation around it.